a transition there, but if I can change my legal name and I can change my email, I can probably change the Linktree name. Oh gosh. Yeah. Okay, take this one down for the podcast. Changing your email is harder than changing your legal name.
Hello there, welcome back to Poised Petty. My name is Ellie, and today we have a wonderful guest, Mama Mephistopheles. This was a wonderful interview. I really liked talking to her. I met her online, and then we met up, I want to say 2024. And she is a wonderful person. I love chatting with her. She is just so sweet. This was a really good interview, catching up with an old friend and talking about life and the journey and all of that. But if you like hearing stories of people who are trans and what they're going through, drop a like, drop a subscribe. I really want to push out an interview with someone once a week. Um, but yeah, let's just jump into the interview. All right. So I am here with my second guest for this podcast, Poison Petty. Would you like to introduce yourself and kind of tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Hi. I am Mama Mephistopheles, also known as Tilly Miller. I am an activist in Texas. I am an OnlyFans muscle mommy. I talk about politics, trans rights, atheism. I organize with my local community, and I try to get as many people involved as I can with my little organization we call the 6W Project. And, you know, I'm excited to be getting the word out. It's been a lot of experiences, but I'm invigorated. That's what I am.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
it does.
I kind of went
Yeah.
off
No,
there.
so I follow you, of course. We're mutuals on a lot of platforms, and I've been seeing, I think on Instagram and TikTok, that you've been doing a lot of more political activism. And I don't think I've told you this, but it's definitely, you've been an inspiration, and I want to help contribute towards the community and kind of why I started this. So just wanted to say
Hell
that
yeah,
I like seeing what you're doing down in Texas.
absolutely. Um, there is always a way to add something to the fight because I am very much a believer in use every tool at our disposal. And, it doesn't matter who you are or where you are, there's always something that you can do if you want to put in to the fight. And I don't just mean donating money, I mean there are always actions that you can do.
Yeah, yeah, I believe in, especially right now, being vocal and kind of being visible is huge, especially in this country. So, yeah, I guess so I want to use this and interview other people who are trans in the community and kind of tell their story. So, if you would like, could you tell us kind of where you're from, what was your world like growing up, and a little bit about your journey so far?
So, growing up, I was an army brat, but my father retired from the military when I was 11. So, I'm more from San Antonio, Texas than anywhere else. I've lived here almost 18 years. It's uh it's got a lot of issues. It's really hot, it's really humid. Um it's got some crappy people, but it's also got a lot of amazing people. I really like it here. It's my home. Growing up, though, I was out in suburbia, and sorry, just checking my notes.
Yeah.
Growing up, it was a conservative household. Um, my dad tried to do the religious upbringing. He tried to raise us, as good evangelical Christians or whatever.
Hmm.
But he really didn't care enough about his kids to put in that much effort to it. So officially, when I like declared that I had not been convinced by the religion, it really wasn't much of a difference from anything that had come before it because I had never really gotten deep into it in the first place. The conservatism, on the other hand, though, the religion of the household and the daily ritual was whatever was happening on Fox News, whatever Rush Limbaugh or Bill O'Reilly or Sean Hannity were saying. Like, my dad was the kind of guy who had, I don't think they were quite wood burned planks, but they were like just planks of wood with paint and words etched into them of Rush Limbaugh quotes in the bathroom.
Oh.
Yeah, so that might give you a little picture of what it was like in that house growing up. And, being out in suburbia, it's pretty isolated, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard to get out of the echo chamber out there. But, then as I went to college, as I got more out into the world, as I got more involved in helping my local community, it allowed me to sort of break down those mental barriers, and get to where I'm at today. Because I was always a why kid growing up, and thankfully my parents were never able to get that impulse out of me. I just kept asking why, annoyed the shit out of them. But sorry, I don't know if I should swear on this.
That's okay.
But it's easily one of my favorite things about.
So you had a very
the
curious nature. Yeah.
Like when you ask, like when you ask your parent, hey, why are there clouds? And it's like, oh, well, it's because water condensates up there. And it's like, why does it do that? Well, I don't know. Eventually you get to a point where they either say, I don't know, or I'm tired of the questions. But that just meant to keep going. I'm all over the place today.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, I guess when, I know you've stated this, but you're involved in politics and you do that, but how else would you describe yourself outside of being trans?
Muscle mommy, Dungeons and Dragons nerd, a bit of a political wonk, a bisexual menace, and kind of a righteous bitch.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I like the bisexual menace. That was a good one. When did you first start questioning your gender?
Well, I would say that the first time I was able to put words to the gender questions was a long time after I started experiencing what I now recognize as gender dysphoria, right? The earliest bits of gender dysphoria were around puberty, right? Before then, I didn't really think about gender. I didn't really care about gender. Then the body horror set in. And stuff just kind of started spiraling from there.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to be able to find the language for it. Like, growing up in the environment that I did, and that a lot of people do. Really, there's nothing special necessarily about living in a particularly conservative home. That means that you won't be exposed to a lot of negative stereotypes about trans people. One of the big issues that I encountered was that there was this caricature, this stereotype of trans people, like every trans person was either some deceiver trying to get something or just some obnoxious person in denial of biological reality, and like that wasn't me. So I thought, okay, this is something else then. It took me so long to get it through my head that those were just inaccurate stereotypes, and the way that trans people are portrayed in society like ended up being one of the biggest barriers to understanding what was going on with myself.
Yeah, I know. I talked to Vera Wild the other day, and
I love Vera.
yeah, we were talking about the same thing, about how this idea of being trans is this one concept or this one idea, but in fact it's more of like an umbrella, and you don't have to do the exact same thing or want surgeries or have that desire.
Yeah.
Was that kind of similar with your experience where you thought you had to be this one type of?
Similar, not exactly the same because like it wasn't that stupid teenage me was thinking oh well it's totally okay to want surgeries and to be called a different gender and to change your name and all that. It's just not for me. That wasn't what I was thinking. I was thinking, I do want those things, but there's something wrong with that. You know,
Oh, gotcha.
those things were being expressed as part of something that wasn't me.
Mm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. When did you start learning about kind of like the language? Was that after your high school years, moving out?
yeah. Um, I would say late high school, early college. Well, throughout college, really. I was mostly, I would say, one of the biggest things was that I was just putting what I could into words that didn't really make sense,
Mm-hmm.
and then just like anonymously asking various forums,
Mm.
and thankfully, uh, eventually someone was like, er, "Oh, you might be describing dysphoria," and then as soon as you have a word, as soon as you have something to latch onto and actually pursue and dig,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it all starts sort of pouring out, you know?
Mm. Kind of opened that door into a whole new world.
Yeah. It's
Um,
you don't know what you don't know tends to
yes.
be a lot of the issue.
Yeah, and that's something I'm I'm really big on trying to get out of. We all create kind of our an echo chamber, and we like to surround ourselves with people who are like-minded, but I try to get out and listen to other people who have different beliefs. I think it's huge, getting out, seeing the world, see what other people believe in. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what your
You know,
opinion is on that, but I do listen to some content creators and other people who are on the other side of the spectrum, just to kind of try to understand what they're saying. And um, in the book, I forgot who it's by, but The Art of War, know your
mm,
enemy. So I try
yeah,
to
exactly.
listen to what other people are saying.
Yeah. So anybody who has followed my content will know that I don't tend to pull my punches when talking about people who uh, are conservatives and support fascism.
Mm.
Um, I don't think, though, that I don't think that it should be exclusionary to not pull your punches and also not understand these people, right?
Mm.
Because even in a moment like now, where I think that we are dealing with a large chunk of people who need to be defeated and overcome, not convinced or, assuaged. For the long term project, for actually securing a good future for all people, you need to understand why people end up like that, even if they end up in what one might call irredeemable. And I don't know that that's true for anybody, but I do know that it can be impractical to try and redeem your way out of fascism. But even if you do have a viewpoint that there are people who are irredeemable, it does not help our world. It doesn't help our future to just write off all of the things that go into making people the way that they are. Like, we tend to, on the left, be very good about focusing on systems of oppression, systems of power, and then we stop analyzing how those systems affect people in their education and their upbringing, you know? Like, why would a person have these terrible opinions? Oftentimes, I'm not saying that there's no nature and it's all nurture, but you can't ignore the nurture of it all, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's important to empathize and figure out how people come to be that way so that we can also, like, maybe stop other people from going down that path.
Yeah, that sounds like a massive battle or a massive undertaking. How do you prevent some people from coming up that way?
I think that funding education is good. I
Mm-hmm.
think that teaching critical thinking is good. And this might be a hot take, but it's one of the reasons why I'm an anti theist. It's why I generally think that religion is kind of bad for society overall, is because, like, there are religions that don't teach this, but I think that on a base level, religion teaches people to believe in unfalsifiable things. Unfalsifiable hypotheses are. So, each one is as valid as the other. With faith, you could come to believe pretty much any position. You could be convinced to believe in anything. And then when it comes to particularly the Abrahamic religions, Christianity in the US teaches folks to not question what their authority figures say, right?
Mm-hmm.
God gives the authority to the church, gives the authority to the men, gives the authority to the mothers, gives the authority to the children. And none of that can be questioned. And if you are having doubts, then that means that you are straying from God. And it ingrains into people early on these patterns of thought that are detrimental to them. And oh, goodness, it means that people have their critical thinking trained out of them, right? Like, I don't know that I would still be a why kid if my parents had said, if you keep asking why, you're going to burn in eternal hellfire forever.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I think that overall it comes into education and it comes to teaching people to critically think. It people should, if people want to be religious, they should wait until they're adults to figure that out. Um, but I think that we have very few overall reliable methods of getting to truth,
Mm-hmm.
and empirical analysis, the scientific method, these things are some of the only ways that we have ever been able to demonstrate a reliable path to knowledge.
It seems like we're getting pretty
I'm a little
far
off track
away.
there, yeah.
No, you're fine. I think I mean I agree, but I think we're getting pretty far away from
Absolutely.
the truth on, especially with AI coming out and news
Oh,
misinformation.
goodness.
It's crazy. It's very scary.
I want to shout out the amazing digital circus for reintroducing into the zeitgeist an extremely important thought experiment called the Chinese room. Do you know the Chinese room?
I don't know.
So the Chinese room is a thought experiment. I'm forgetting the name of the guy who came up with it, but it's sort of halfway used as a gag in the show The Amazing Digital Circus. But the actual thought experiment is that imagine there's a room with a locked door, and one fluent Chinese speaker on the outside is writing down notes on Chinese, slipping them under the door.
Mm-hmm.
And then inside, there's a person who has a large book of ways that they should interpret certain Chinese symbols and then what they should write onto another piece of paper and slip out. And
Okay.
to the Chinese speaker on the outside, it looks like that person inside is speaking fluent Chinese, but the person inside doesn't. They don't know a word of Chinese. All they have is this book telling them, you receive this symbol, you put this output out, right?
Mm.
And is basically what these so-called AIs are. They're just amalgamizing inputs and creating an output that it expects to have. It's not thinking, it's not having ideas, it's not like being given a concept and then trying to satisfy something. It's trying to average things. You know, that's why what we say it's all built on stolen stuff. Even if it's a picture that doesn't have anything similar to it out in the world, it's because it had to draw every single pixel of that as an average of art that does exist. Every word is an average of language that has already existed out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
And
AI is
so,
not, it doesn't create original
yeah.
content.
And so when we talk about AI, we're talking about an Ouroboros. it is a self-eating snake, right? When
Mm-hmm.
you start putting that into our knowledge and you start relying on knowledge, it gives this feedback loop of people just, you're getting copies of copies of copies of copies of copies and so on and so forth until eventually all you have is this brown sludge that was just this middle color to all the rainbow that was put into it, and we're not having anything new to learn from there, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It just reiterates kind of the information that we have already out there.
Except when it gets it wrong, and then that gets fed back into itself.
Yeah, there are a lot of
Right?
stories
You
of
listen to the
people.
Google AI overview, and it tells you to put glue on pizza to make the cheese stringier.
Right? There are a lot of stories out there of people using AI for their work and getting in a lot of trouble because it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess
Yep.
we can reel it back in a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
that's okay. When you first started transitioning, what did transition mean to you, and has that changed?
Um, I would say that transition sort of meant taking a mask off, you know?
Mm.
It meant that I didn't have to perform anything anymore. You know, like, there's that stereotype out there, like trans people are just performing some kind of gender role, but it's
Mm.
it's really the opposite, because
Yeah.
I have stopped performing any gender roles. I have stopped holding myself back from things that I wanted to do or wanted to be because it wasn't fitting in with what, masculinity was supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't care about having tits and being pretty because it doesn't matter. You know, I am comfortable being in the woman box, but there's a lot of room in there. And it's not about putting yourself into a different box, right? Like, I'll punch my legs through the bottom of this thing and run around with it like a Halloween costume, you know? I'll Flintstone that bitch.
How did coming out go for both internally for yourself and for others?
So, internally, was kind of a nightmare. Um, I talked about it a little bit before, and then so there were like probably 6 times I was sitting at various stages of, this is a serious thing, I should do something, and like the first 5 times that thing was, oh, suppress harder, you know?
Yeah.
But eventually you reach a breaking point. Um, and there's no future in repressing. You know, when you can't see yourself getting old, living life the way that you are, it's eventually you just kind of get forced into being yourself.
Yeah.
Um, Coming out to others was, a mixed bag. Um, my mom was, and in many ways still is, fairly ignorant. And I have to teach her gender 101 stuff a lot, but, at least she's willing to learn.
Yeah.
Um, I lost some friends. I lost my D&D group when I came out, which sucked. My grandparents were upset that I had done this to them,
Oh, wow.
which, yeah, we could unpack that one for days.
Yeah.
Goodness. Ugh. And I already hadn't talked to my dad in years before I came out. And, but his reaction to learning that I had come out was to just talk a lot of shit about me in his blog.
Oh,
Yeah. So what you gonna do?
gosh. And does he still do that?
Oh no, he died in a very funny way.
Oh.
Yeah. So he's kind of a Nazi, so I really don't feel bad about him dying. But he had this thing where he was like, "Oh, God gave me this cancer so that I could get through the cancer and spread the word on the other side of this journey. And then turned out that the cancer treatment that he thought had taken did not take, and he died in like a month.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Yeah, I guess that didn't work out as he planned.
Yeah. And that was in July. And so it was really funny then after that happened and I had mostly gotten through all that work, and then I sort of watched all of that play out across the country when you know, tiny face, big head started talking out the side of his neck.
Yes. Yes. Hmm. Did you have were there any parts of your transition that were harder than you expected?
Um, Probably the slowness of it.
Mm.
You know, you got to trust the process. And when you get to the point where you decide to transition, right? Like I'm sure that you're familiar. Um, it's like, okay, I can start living authentically now, and you want to do it all at once, right? Like there's so much lost time to make up for.
Yeah.
But HRT, it goes as fast as it goes, right? It takes time to develop a new sense of style. It takes time to learn how to do makeup if you want to be doing makeup. It takes it takes time to come out to everybody in your life, and you change around your documents and get used to everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I I'm here at the end of this incredibly long journey to get to this point, and now I have so much further to go. Can I just get to the end already? I've done the mental work. Can the physical stuff just get skipped?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, I would say I had a similar idea or process. When coming out, it's just like a 180. I remember diving deep into like makeup and doing that and try to be super high femme and getting to that end point when it's you gotta enjoy the journey. You have to enjoy it because it does take a while. It takes years. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that first year on hormones is wild.
Were there parts that were surprisingly joyful? Did you have anything that
Um, I think it was just not constantly checking myself.
mm,
Like there's the barriers that you have to break down, the maintaining the mask, the constant self-policing of behavior that you do before transition. Just not doing that is like it's like setting down weight that you didn't even realize you were carrying?
yeah.
It's just very freeing to not have to run through this checklist of I don't know what you would call it, expectations of yourself before doing things. You can just be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had that moment when I came out to my friends and family. It just felt like a breath of fresh air. Like I wasn't weighted down. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if this like is what you particularly meant because it's kind of an external thing, but also just like the community, you know? When you come out, there's so few trans people that you think maybe you're not gonna be able to meet other trans folks, but like we're good at finding each other apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
And
think
there's just this amazing, wonderful community full of people that's just like waiting there, and it's like it's really beautiful.
it is really nice. Yeah. I think there have been a lot of moments, especially in my journey. I don't know about yours, but the feeling of like you think you're alone, you think you're the only one that's like going through this, but there's a lot of people out there.
Mhm.
Um, I guess what has there been? I wonder if this applies probably more recently, but being visibly trans, what's been the hardest part for you?
Um, the dehumanization, probably. Like,
Yeah.
there is a significant portion of the population that has just stopped seeing us as people. Like, the way that these folks will act toward us, it's like, okay, something has been flipped in your brain about trans people, because you would never see them acting towards their close family like this. You would never see them acting towards, people that they don't have some kind of negative belief about. People, they behave in these incredibly antisocial ways that you can only really do if you don't think that you're talking to a real human person. You know? Like, and then there's the fact that we have a whole societal structure and laws that basically affirm that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Have you seen that a lot in when you're in the political setting, when you're, because you go to the Capitol and you fight? Do you still see that?
Oh yeah. I mean, you go and you talk to these people. You look someone dead in the eye who is passing a bill, or you're passing out of committee and then later votes for it, passing a bill that says that if I were to go to prison, if I had committed 34 felony counts of fraud, that I should be sentenced to rape, right? And so I've gone up to those people, I've looked them in the eye, and I've asked them to say with their full chest, just, do you think that I deserve to be raped? Because that is what you're voting for.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked them, why do you think that? I've asked them, what do you think makes it worth it? And none of them answer.
They just ignore you?
None of them will even acknowledge it. They want to do these things to us, and they don't want to think about us as people.
Yeah, you'd think we would have, I don't know, have higher expectations for the people in our politics.
Yeah, you'd think.
Gosh.
But I don't know what it is. A lot of, well, I think a lot of it is people don't pay attention, and then they vote according to the D or R next to a name. I think a lot of people just don't vote at all. And so you end up with these absolute monsters in politics.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that answers the next question on what would you want cis people to understand about being trans? Would it be the, we're human, we're
Well,
normal, or
yeah. And I would also want them to understand that we know more about ourselves than they do. Right? We know more about us than they know about us. Like, how many times, I mean, I've lost count at this point, but how many times do you think that you've been asked some version of, well, did you just try being cis? Like, it's like if you saw somebody, like, poking around in their engine, trying to figure out what's wrong with their car, and you're like, did you check if you were out of gas? Like, you're just the inherent in that question is something degrading and insulting. It's saying, oh, well, you're too stupid to know yourself. So
mm,
here I am to make sure that we've checked all the boxes and done all the things, because you stupid little trans person don't know as well as me, amazing cis person. Like, the amount of arrogance that it takes to, like, not even question yourself before saying something like that, and the entitlement to feel like you should have an opinion or you should be an authority on something that you know nothing about just because you're the default is frankly insane to me. Like,
yeah, that
I don't get
reminds me
how
of
people into that.
that reminds me of
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj recently at the
What would she do?
what was she was talking to Erica Kirk at America Fest or whatever. And Nicki Minaj, she just said one of her statements was that it's okay for boys to be boys. And it's like no one's
What?
saying that it's not. That's not just that's not what.
Hey, introduce me to the trans person who says that. Like, I've never met them.
Ugh, yeah. Yeah, I think it's huge on, like you said, yeah, like they just they don't know. So how can they tell other people what to do or what's best for them?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, I'm not in a wheelchair. I wouldn't go up to a person in a wheelchair and start making suggestions on how to make their life in a wheelchair easier. They've probably thought of anything that I could think of before. I'm
Right.
not a quantum physicist. I don't go up to physicists and start arguing with them about, like, well, did you consider that maybe the universe was thrown up by a cat at some point? Hmm?
If you thought it was that. Uh, what does um what does confidence look like for you now?
Confidence looks like honesty, in my opinion. It because there's I mean, I've talked about this a little bit so far, but there's no facade to maintain. There's no there's no stakes to making human errors, right? Just trying my best does not come with any personal like failures necessarily, like, or even failing isn't necessarily a, a mark on your character in any way. It's like when you're not afraid of losing something by messing up in a social interaction, or failing to live up to some arbitrary standard. Confidence is just kind of the natural state of things, because confidence is just not being afraid generally, and it's, well, I don't know if that's necessarily the best definition, but when it comes to just like being confident in a social situation, it's just kind of like doing the things that you're going to do in the best way that you can, and not beating yourself up for any like mistakes or trip ups. You learn, you move on, and sometimes, you just do the thing and it all goes fine. In fact, I found that that's most of the time, you
Mm-hmm.
know? I don't know if that's going to be the case for everybody, but like if somebody's going to be a jerk to you because you stumble or mess up, or you say or you can't phrase a sentence very well, or there's something wrong with your posture, or any of the number of insecurities and personal nitpicks that we can make about ourselves, it's like, why should we care about that? you know when you stop caring so much about maintaining a mask, then confidence is just sort of the natural state of being.
Mm-hmm.
Confidence wasn't something I had to practice. It was something that came because I unlearned the thing that was keeping me from being confident.
Mm-hmm. Would you say because I think watching your content, I believe that you exude confidence. Is it because you don't care what other people think about you? Is that um
In a way, like, for one thing, when you're watching my videos, I am going to be a lot more confident seeming in those ones because I do script them, you know? That's I make no bones about it. I put my phone on a split screen mode and I read out my script while I'm filming, um,
mm.
because I mean, I don't think it makes me any less honest to just write honestly instead of trying to speak off the cuff honestly.
Well, even with your content,
Because honestly, I've got ADHD and that shit's hard.
even with your
um,
content when you're um being a political activist in these in the Capitol in the buildings, even those videos, I
oh,
think you portray confidence.
yeah. I mean, I the things that I have to lose from that are not the things that I find to be most important.
Mm.
I don't consider myself a worse person at the end of the day if I were to like get arrested, or um, if somebody were to try and disrupt the action, the things that are at stake are not the things that I find to be the most important things.
Mm.
And I think that, at some point somebody's got to do it. It's like you walk in with your head held high, and you do what you can, you do your best, and what happens from there happens. And I'm not saying don't think anything through. We definitely put a lot of planning into our actions. Like the action that we just did at the Capitol, the Banarchy action, we had bail support on standby. We talked to ACLU of Texas lawyers beforehand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was something that we very deliberately planned out from beginning to end. And it was because we were so prepared that they ended up not being able to actually arrest any of our people. They tried to, but
Oh.
because we knew the law that we were there to protest against, we pointed out that there's no individual penalties imposed by that law, and they could not arrest them legally.
But they
All they
tried
ended
to?
up doing was trespassing folks off the property,
Wow.
which they can do for any reason at any time, unless that reason is like discriminatory, which, I mean, there's a pretty solid case that it is.
Yeah, yeah. Ugh,
Yeah.
gosh.
But I guess part of what we're talking about here is sort of the difference between confidence and bravery,
Mhm.
because like I was scared shitless, don't get me wrong, because the physical stakes are very real. Those things
Oh.
those things do matter. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying that it's more important to me to be doing the right thing and to be taking action on this stuff rather than just sitting around at home for my own comfort.
Yeah, yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you are very sure on who you are, on what you want to do in your mission.
Well, I mean, specifics can get a little wonky,
Yeah.
action ideas come up and seem like a really good idea, then circumstances change, then we have to shift to a different thing. So when it comes to like actual specific plans, yeah, that can change around a lot, but I know what the goals are, and that's
Hmm.
just to, make a society that's better for everyone,
Yeah.
because like and sorry, bad at words
No,
sometimes.
no, you're
So,
fine.
um we focus in particular on queer issues, um because there are lots of organizations that focus on all sorts of things, having a million specialists who can really effectively strike at every area of progress that we need to make is a good way to do things. And it's about having 1% of the solution with 100 other organizations. It's not about being 100% of the solution. It's about doing what we can and trusting that the rest of the country is also doing what they can. And we
Yeah.
try to mobilize folks to get them to join into that fight.
Mhm. What is um what is something you would say to someone who is kind of has questions about who they are or their gender right now?
I would say that there is no downside to knowing more about yourself. Like, even if you go down this journey and you experiment and you shop around, and it turns out at the end of the day that you're not trans, that you're just as cisgender as anybody could ever be, then you will have learned things about yourself. You will have learned stuff that you like and don't like. You will
Hmm.
have learned where the boundaries of your own identity are. You will have learned, right, like what sorts of things you might want to do that you wouldn't have expected about yourself. No there's no negative, because being trans isn't about being trans. It's about being yourself and being happy. And
Yeah.
just the process of self-exploration and introspection is gonna lead you to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think having that self-awareness is huge. And I think it's harder, it's easier said than done. I think it's hard. I know I've gone through therapy and that's helped with self-awareness and self-exploration. And I've had a few books that I've read that have helped. Yeah. Do you have something that you wish your past self would know?
All right, so this is past me. I'm grabbing that dumb little girl by the scruff of her neck.
Okay.
ROTC will not make you more comfortable in a gender that you are not. Go be a theater kid. Go be happy. You're just gonna make yourself more annoying. Hmm.
That was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You think your younger
Honestly,
self would
one
have
of the worst
listened?
decisions of my life. Ugh.
Say that again?
One of the worst decisions of my life. Sticking with ROTC stuff to try and like live up to the masculinity standard presented by my
Oh.
family. Like, I should have just been a theater kid. I frickin' loved Theater 101, and I should have kept doing it.
Hmm.
Ugh.
So, I guess we're getting kind of the end, wrapping it up. Just a few more questions. How do you want your story to help other trans people or queer people? Or another?
I think that it's easy to like look at my life and you see somebody who has gone from having relatively low stakes of just being able to go through life perceived as a cisgender male to somebody who now has to deal with a lot of higher stakes things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that it's worth it. It really is. Because, you know, these people that are outside of us that want to make our lives hell,
Mm-hmm.
they aren't with us 24 hours a day, right? I'm with me 24 hours a day. I'm the only person who is with me 24 hours a day. I want other trans folks to know that there is a reason why trans history looks the way that it does, and we're currently living through it because trans history and queer history overall is a history of, on the surface, it's going to look like a history of oppression and a history of a lot of death. But you know what? It's also a history of survivors, and it's a history of fighters,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a history of love and joy and hope and finding happiness in circumstances where by all rights it should be impossible, right? It's about there's a community, there is so much to experience. It's like seeing the world in color. And the reason why the fight is as intense as it is because we are fighting to preserve that beauty, to live our lives in a way that is frankly more beautiful than I could ever have imagined before I accepted myself. And I want other people to know that's it's right there and it's waiting for you.
Yeah. I guess we're kind of getting to the end. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on before I can ask you if you want to plug anything?
Goodness.
Yeah, I think while you think on that, having hope is huge, especially right now in this political climate. It's some days when you're just watching the news or the world, it might seem hopeless, but having hope is huge right now.
Revolutionary optimism, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's anything that someone can take from my story, it's that it doesn't really matter where you're coming from. It doesn't matter what's it I'm sorry, I'm not good at putting this into words.
No, you're fine. Take
But
your time.
even when it's hard to see, there is a future for you. And it's a good future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I agree. That's good. Um,
Uh,
yeah, I think ending it on a good note that it's
yes.
just there's hope. I think we have hope. We
Mhm.
need hope. Yeah.
I hope
And
so. The way that I phrased all that feels woefully inadequate, but I hope that the message gets across.
and I think we should and we do have a lot of hope, and I think it's because of people like you who are out there being an advocate for our community and fighting, especially in the legislation. I think that's huge. So thank you for doing that.
It's that community that keeps me going there, you
Yeah.
know?
Hmm. Do you
I don't
have
know what I would do without the community, and people say that to me, and I'm like, "You got this straight backwards."
it's yeah, we're feeding off each other and pushing each other.
Mhm.
What
Yeah, that positive feedback loop of help.
yeah, yeah. What do you have to plug? What do you want to plug? What are you
Um,
doing?
so, most important thing, I run a small grassroots political organization. We are we are partisan. We don't take donations. Not asking for money. We are just a political organization in Texas called the 6W Project. It's called that because our goal is to make sure that we connect people to the 6 W's of every single one of our actions: the who, what, when, where, why, and how.
Mm.
Uh, how being a little dinky little asshole with its W on the end, but it's there. It's there. Um, we have a Discord and a rapid response email list. You can find both of those at the 6W Project link tree, linktr.ee/6W Project. As for following me personally, I do talk about a lot of the stuff that we do with the 6W Project on my pages on TikTok and Instagram, where I am Mama Mephistopheles. I would recommend putting that on screen because people tend to struggle with spelling that one. I would have picked a different name if I had known how long I was going to be using it.
Yeah, I'll
um,
grab all the links and I'll have everything put up.
yeah. I talk politics, news, atheism, trans rights, queer rights in general, and I make muscle mommy content. And if that's the kind of thing that you're really interested in, I do have the OF that you can find at
Mm.
the Mephy Heart link tree.
Well, thank you for doing this. Yeah, I really appreciate
Yeah,
you
thank you
giving
so
me
much
your
for
time.
having me. I'm glad.